What's going on, everybody? It's AJ from ajFitness, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I count my macros. Basically, where do I get the numbers from? Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the 40-40-20 method, so yeah, that's basically the method that I use, 40-40-20. It helps a lot, and it really gives you a really good foundation, whether you're bulking or cutting. It gives you a great start to reaching your goals, whether you're trying to grow or burn fat. So if you're someone who hasn't really found a way to count their macros, or you don't even know what macros are, pay attention to this video. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly so you're not sitting there for a long time, and enjoy. Well, the first thing I do is, let's say I'm cutting. Like right now I'm cutting. I'm in pretty much the late stages of cutting. I'm at 165 pounds, and my macros have changed significantly since a few months ago. But let's say I'm just now starting to begin my cutting diet. When I began my cutting diet, I was about 170 pounds. Now what I would do is I would take my weight, 170 pounds, and multiply it by 13. Now where did I get the number 13? That number comes from the amount of activity you do during the day. Basically how physically intense your day is. So if you're someone who like me, who walks around a campus, but let's say it's a small campus, so you don't do that much walking, I gave myself about a 13, plus the added amount of stress when working out. So let's say you are someone who has a very active job. You're always on your feet. Give yourself maybe a 14 or 15. Now that's where the range is. That number that you multiply your weight by is from 12 to 15. Now when I multiply 170 pounds by 13, I get 2210, so 2,210. That is the maximum, that is your caloric budget for each day, 2,210 calories. Now as for my macro split, I'm on a 40-40-20 split in the early stages of cutting. So that means 40% is proteins, 40% is carbs, and 20% is fat. Now those numbers are percentages of your caloric intake. Carbs, proteins, and fats all have calories. So let's measure how many fats we're supposed to take in each day on this particular diet. So we take our caloric budget, multiply it by 0.2, because 20% of our calories are coming from fats. The number we get is 442. We then divide 442 by 9, because 9 is the amount of calories in a gram of fat. And as you can see, fat is very, very calorie dense. And we get 49.1 grams of fat per day. Or, just to round it out evenly, 50 grams of fat per day. Now we do the same equation for carbs and protein. Luckily, carbs and protein share the same percentage daily, so all we have to do is one of them. So we take 2,210 calories times 0.4, which is 40%, and we get 884. We then divide 884 by 4, because there are 4 grams of calories. I'm sorry, there are 4 calories per gram of protein and carbohydrates. So 884 divided by 4, that gives us 221 grams of carbs and protein daily. So, just to recap, when I begin cutting, my macro ratios are 40-40-20. So 40%, 40%, 20%. That's protein, carbs, fats. And that equates to 50 grams of fats, 221 grams of carbs, and 221 grams of protein daily. Now, when I continue cutting, when I want to get even more shredded for a show, I start to change not the ratio, but I start to change the amount of calories I take in daily. So less calories equals less fat. And because of that, the number of each section, fats, carbs, and protein, they start to decrease. But I like to make sure that my protein remains as high as possible. So I try to keep it above 200 grams per day. Now moving on to bulking. Now bulking is a little bit of a different story. So what I like to do, now a lot of people don't do it like this. I don't really incorporate my my intensity during the day. Remember that number that we got, 12 through 15? I don't incorporate that at all. When I'm bulking, I obviously know that the more calories taken, the more your body is prone to grow. So I take my weight when I first start bulking. Let's say I'm at 170 pounds. I'll take my weight, 170 pounds, and I will automatically begin to take in an excess amount of calories. And usually I would start at 2,900, or I would start at 2,900 calories. So what we do is we take 2,000 or 2,900 calories, and we're using the same macro ratios, 40, 40, 20. So 40% carbs, 40% protein, and 20% fats. Now let's start off with the fats. So 2,900 times 0.2 equates to 580. So we then divide 580 divided by 9, because there are 9 calories per gram of fat. And that gives us 64 grams of fat daily. And since the percentage for carbs and protein are the same, we do the same. 2,900 calories times 0.4, 40%. That gives us 1,160. Divide that by 4, because there are 4 calories per gram of protein and per gram of carbohydrates. And that gives us 290 grams. That is an insane amount of protein and an insane amount of carbs. But you're bulking. And that's just the beginning of your bulking stage, or at least my bulking stage. So I'm aiming to take in almost 300 calories, it's 290 grams of protein and 290 grams of carbohydrates daily. That is a huge challenge for me, at least. And on top of that, I have to keep growing. So eventually my calories are going to top 3,300 calories daily. So my macros are going to be absolutely huge. But that doesn't stay there for long, because after I hit that maximum amount of calories daily, I maybe am there for a week or two, and then I begin to start my cutting diet. So anyway, you guys, that's how I figure out my macros for my cutting and my bulking. Just to recap, when I'm cutting, I don't stay on the same amount of calories, especially when I'm someone who competes in shows. I have to decrease calories over time so I can burn more fat. If you're someone who's cutting, not really necessarily trying to get stage ready for a competition, you could probably maintain the same amount of calories. If you want to keep getting leaner, if you want to keep getting leaner, then you keep decreasing those calories. Anyway, you guys, thanks for watching. That's how I get my macros.